first road day is from Alabama to Georgia. It's only about 300 miles, but since we go all on back roads and no freeway, it's going to take us all day. We start at 7 in the morning, starting with a driver's meeting.
All right, guys, this is going to be our first real road day. It's going to be long, it's going to be hot, it's going to be a lot of fun, though. So what's our number one rule?
No whining.
Number two, get 3 hydrates. Hydrate, hydrate, hydrate. You don't have to have food for the entire trip. We're stopping in segments. Again, you don't need 10 steaks unless you're cooking me one. Okay? All right, let's do it.
We stopped at Auto City Salvage and took a tour to see what they had.
We're at Auto City in Anniston, Alabama. We're here with the owner, Vic. He was kind enough to let us go through his yard. Why is that? I mean, come on. We're car guys. What do we like to do? We like to go through salvage yards. We make our living driving stuff that starts out new, ends up like, well, what I'm going to make this truck look like by the end of the day. So what do you think of our group?
I think it's a great group. Everyone looks good. Everyone's been very polite.
Yeah?
I appreciate y'all coming by and seeing us today.
Well, thanks again. We're going to
thank you
get
so
out
much.
of here and go see the top of Alabama.
Okay, good luck with
All
it.
right,
Y'all have a nice
thanks.
evening.
One thing I like to do on our road days is actually take people to places they never go before. What we did this time, we stopped at Cheaha State Park, which was the top of Alabama. It's only about 2,400 feet, but still, it's pretty cool and has a neat tower on top, gives you a view of the entire area.
This is the top of Alabama at an ear-popping 2,407 feet. But it still gives you the best views of the valleys on both sides. It's really cool. Even took a while for some of the vehicles with the smaller engines to chug their way to the top.
A big puff of smoke came out from under my seat, and it's overheating a little bit, but I'm not so worried about the overheating yet, but I am worried about the smoke.
From there, we dropped down and went through some dirt roads and back roads that I hadn't even been on. So that's what makes it an ultimate adventure for me. I saw it on the map, figured it probably could get through, and if we didn't, well, then everybody's gonna have to backtrack. Once we got out of the state park, we got back down onto the flats and hit some regular little back roads. What's cool about these is you find all sorts of neat little towns and fine little places with courthouses that we all drove around. It kind of made a few little stirs in the little communities, but they all seemed to enjoy it. We even stopped in one little town that had a fireworks place. And that's cool because a couple of days would be 4th of July and we had to stock up.
Goliath. It's all his mortars. It says 129, but you'll be able to get it a lot cheaper than that. I know these fireworks people.
Imagine 50 guys going in one little fireworks stand and nearly cleaning them all out. We were going to be ready regardless. On our first road day, it's really kind of cool to see how people are going to interact with each other and if they kind of get the idea of how to stay together in a line. We always have our tail gunner, which is usually somebody like Sam Gillis, one of our cronies, hang behind so that they can make sure we all keep going. Unfortunately, this time, Sam had a stuck brake caliper, so he was way behind.
Yeah, my brake caliper sticking again. I think it's got a rust ring in it. So a lot of times you can just give it a few pecks. A lot of times it'll free it up. It's just from sitting, not getting a whole lot of wear, so.
So what we did is we took Tim Hardy to run back to a Napa store and get him a brake caliper.
Well, we're trying to change, got a seizing piston in the caliper, so we're trying to change the caliper out. But unfortunately, he picked up the wrong caliper at the parts house. Lighter duty caliper, too narrow. Run down to Napa and get one, Tim. Run down there and get one.
You get those new guys.
I'll try it now, where's it at?
In the meantime, Sam didn't have a caliper, so he came along. With Sam gone, Keith Bailey took over in his Blueser buggy to take the tail end. Unfortunately, he started to have transmission problems and overheating issues. So we left him behind as well, and the rest of us kept on going into Georgia.
All right, so we're finally in Georgia on our first road day. It's taken us 3/4 of a day to get here, and we still have 100, 200 miles to go. But here's the fun part. Halfway through, we swap co-drivers. Whoever's in front with the co-driver, everybody gets out, goes to the car behind them, or the Jeep behind them. Get going. This is one way that everybody gets to know each other, and also gets to know how the other driver is.
Luckily, it wasn't too hot for us this day because we had a nice cloud cover. Normally, it's around 90 to 100 degrees during the summer, but with all the green and trees and cloud cover, it kept it really nice for everybody on the trip. Some of our West Coast friends that had never seen anything like this and used to a dry environment, they really enjoyed it and thought it was pretty cool. Before darkness fell, we stopped to get food and fuel for the next couple of days. We were going to be camping out in the middle of fields, and so we wanted to make sure we were prepared. Our 300-mile trip lasted well into the dark. We finally made it to River Rock and started to set up in the rain. It was going to be a long, wet night. River Rock is a private park in the heart of Georgia. It's probably one of the best places around, but it's only open by special invitation. Now we got a chance to go to one of the finest places around. It has red Georgia clay, it has sandy clay, it has boulders, it has trees, it has swamps, it has logs, has absolutely everything we need. Our first obstacle was really neat because no one had been on it in about 3 years. It's sort of like diving off of a cliff, going around some huge boulders, turning right, and then shooting back up the hill. With our group, with 50 people and 25 rigs, actually made a figure 8 by the time we came back up. Then we had to stagger and then cut across to get to the next series of hill climbs. The second obstacle actually had 2 different lines. One looked bad, one looked pretty easy. Unfortunately, looks are deceiving. It was not an easy obstacle.
Second obstacle at River Rock. This is our second wheeling day, and we got Steve Watson in Wally. He's going to try and make this climb to his left. I had the winch, unfortunately. I think he can make it. A lot lighter, much bigger motor. Let's watch the tire speed. Look at James, he's so relaxed.
At River Rock, there's lots of skinny little trails, and when you're wheeling a full size like our Super Dirty, you get a little too close to a tree and you might get a little dent. I was doing really well until one tree took off my right rear tail light. That wasn't too bad, but then the next full size came by, and that was Mel Wade. He did the same thing on his truck. So we really have something in common. So Mel had even more fun on an obstacle where he's trying to climb and there was a rock underneath. He got his drive shaft on it, and it touched it, and it twisted like, like sausage. Boom! That was the end of his drive shaft.
So we're still winching Mel up the hill. It's still got broken pieces of drive shaft attached in there, but one of the things that Mel does with this truck is chase a trophy truck desert racing team. It's the Mastercraft team. But as part of that, they tend to eat up rear drive lines a lot, and it's really critical that you have one to get out. So if you check over here, he actually has a drive line on the vehicle ready to go, so he's 8 bolts away from being back in action and ready to go for the rest of the day.
Luckily, he had a complete spare drive shaft bolted to the side of his truck, so he put that on, completed the rest of the day.
So we're just tearing the front end out.
as we broke the front locker. It was a welded locker, so the welds broke out. So what we're gonna do is just simply pull up all the front end parts and slap the locker on the bench, weld it back up. Seems the guys here have a fantastic welder, so that'll work very well.
Our last mandatory obstacle was more of a tight turn up to the left and over some rocks. Everybody made it, some a little easier than others. For instance, Lance, he just crawled right up it. He got his tires dirty, but that was about the worst problem he had on it. At River Rock, Trail 5 is really the best there is. It's a little man-made obstacle, a chute going up with full of boulders. It's also optional on this trip, and so I jumped in with the Super Dirty. It has boulders almost half the size of the cab, it has holes, and it's a little bit muddy and it's a little bit slick. In fact, once it started to rain, it got worse. The mud came up, rivers came through. It was like a torrent. We even had to start winching with not one vehicle, but 2 or maybe 3 to anchor us so that we could start getting up. It wasn't something we were going to be able to crawl all by ourselves. Finally, by the time the rain really started, it was something like out of Jurassic Park. The only thing missing was a T-Rex. Once we finally got out of Trail 5, we all headed back down to the park. That's where we had an incredible pig roast put on by River Rock. After that, it was time to hit the hay because we had to get up early in the morning and pack, get out of there for the next road day.